Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. Hello if you're new. My name is Andrea Johnson. I am your spiritual inspiration, here to inspire, empower, and teach you how to master your energy. Welcome to Conscious Coffee Talks, where we discuss topics to expand our consciousness and improve our lives. Today's topic is going to be a conscious expanding one. And it's a question that I get asked quite a bit. And what I've seen people struggle with the most as far as my students or even myself in the beginning of my energy work journey. And that was, how do you know when you're receiving messages from spirit or your intuition or from a higher source? And how do you know what is fear or what is just made up and the mind playing tricks on you? By the time you get done with this video, you're going to be confident in the messages that you hear and in yourself. To first start off with, you are always connected to spirit. Just because you exist, your existence in itself is proof that you are part of something greater than yourself, right? So ultimately, and this is probably going to set the stage for the entire video, you never make anything up. Everything in this universe is the universe. It is us dreaming ourselves into existence. Because we are a piece of the universe, everything is ultimately God. Because of this, every message that you receive is from spirit. It's just up to your discernment and your level of belief on what you deem to be true and what is truly in alignment with your soul. So in reality, what we're going to really be going over today, since everything is messages, essentially, how to tell what is the highest vibration and when to act on them. So whenever we talk about receiving messages from spirit or spirit guides or your soul, your higher self, we're talking about tapping into our psychic abilities. And our psychic abilities are our five senses just elevated to a spiritual sense. We're going to call this our sixth sense. So you are hyper aware of energies that are already existing around you. All of these things are already happening. All of these things are always in contact with you and always trying to contact you. It's just your conscious awareness of them in the moment. So the only true way that we can really, I say, tap into the energies or high vibrational energies is for us to become aware of them ourselves and work on our own energy, right? It's us developing our conscious expansion and raising our own vibration to communicate with higher energies. So we're talking about angels, your higher self, things that are always trying to communicate with you rather than the earthly, I call them entities, or more of the earth energies that we humans come into contact with every day. And we can think of these energies as like addictions or negative thoughts, things of that nature. So in order to develop your psychic abilities or your five senses, essentially, it's going to take some practice, and it's going to take you actually setting the intention to want to develop these out, to want to hear the message of spirit, which is however which way spirit wants to communicate with you. If you want to hear a message, that might be clairaudience. If you want to feel a message, that will be your clairsentient, which is the emotions, the feeling that you get in your body. It could be the claircognizance, which is just the knowing, which is information just hitting you out of nowhere. You're like, oh, yep, that was definitely a message. So it is just you setting the intention to receive messages and then practicing acting upon them, right? And to be able to do this, we need to quiet the mind. We have to quiet the monkey mind with meditation, or instead of saying quiet the monkey mind, because a lot of people struggle with that terminology, or they think something's wrong with them if they can't shut their mind off. It is just knowing how to work with your mind, right? It's understanding when the mind runs. The more you try to shut it off, the more it's going to run, because you're focusing on it running, right? So we want to place our focus on things that we want to manifest. So that is the power of your intention. So if you set the intention to hear messages from spirit, that is ultimately what is going to happen. And the more you set this intention and maybe try and meditate, or at least do some actions to show the universe or to signal to God or whatever you want to call it that you are trying to connect and develop intuition to hear the messages, your psychic abilities, we'll call it, then it will always meet you halfway. It will design a reality for you to practice building the faith within yourself to fully believe that you are already psychic, because you are. You just have to believe it, right? Because like I was talking about earlier, we are always in contact with these spirits, right? We're always in contact with spirit because it's all that is. It is just your level of belief in receiving the message and the highest message. You should base your messages off of how you feel, what is in alignment with your heart, what feels good for you, right? So when you're getting messages that are of that negative voice in your head, you know that that's not God or the universe because you don't feel love, right? It doesn't feel like your soul, right? It doesn't feel like wisdom. It feels like fear, negativity. Those are lower level entities. So you automatically know that's not your soul. Tip number 2, the more that you work on yourself, the more that you're going to develop out your intuition and your conscious expansion and have experiences, you're going to come to the realization that ultimately it is you playing a game with yourself, designing a reality around the experience of practicing being psychic. And especially when you start working with other clients or other people and doing readings for people, this will, one, build your practice even faster and the belief that you have even faster when you actually start reading people and getting confirmation that the reading was correct. It will definitely skyrocket your confidence. But 2, you're going to start to actually see through reality. The more that you work on yourself and the more that you read for people, you ultimately start to feel and know that the other person ultimately didn't come into your reality by coincidence. Jesus actually said this whenever he would heal people. It was because the only way that he could heal people and not heal the world was because he knew who came to him was ready to heal. It's essentially the same thing with you when you give readings for people or trying to hear the message of spirit for others. If you're doing this type of work, is that you ultimately know who's sitting in front of you is for a reason, and it is because they are ready to hear the message that you are going to give them. They ultimately have faith and belief in you that what you give to them and deliver to them, because they're in front of you, it will be ultimately true. And likewise for you, you should know that whoever is in front of you, Spirit has delivered them to you because you can give them the message because you're already connected. So your level of belief in yourself, the client is going to feel that and ultimately receive that energy as well too. This is how this all truly works. Because once again, we don't make anything up because this is all the mind of God. What you deliver and what messages you get, it is energy coming through because the brain is the transmitter. It is the spiritual hardware is what I call it. It's receiving messages. So what I am speaking through to the camera right now, I'm receiving this message from a higher dimension, right? And it's channeling through this body, right? So it is my higher self teaching you these things. Essentially, that's the same thing going on in a psychic reading, or if you're working with a client. Ultimately, when you yourself have worked on yourself enough and have connected to higher dimensional energies, and you do this by practicing embodying high vibrational frequencies, that's the messages you get through, and then you create that reality for the client or for yourself. And to know how you are connected to high vibrational energies is how you feel when you speak, right? It's the emotion. It's connecting to the heart center. When you speak from your heart, the seat of your soul, that is the reality you ultimately create for everybody involved, which is ultimately you. You then come to know the person in front of you is just helping you experience yourself as a psychic reader, or as delivering a message from spirit, or as being of service to others, however which way that you want to see it. It's ultimately helping you have this experience that your soul wants to experience of being a light worker. This brings me to my next tip is when you truly understand life itself and what we really are, guys, it's pretty unbelievable that we even exist. That the chance that we're even here is proof that there is something beyond what we can physically see, right? I mean, think about it. You're moving, this body is channeling energy. Something is powering this body that we cannot see, right? So ultimately, when you really break down and understand life and what we are, you know that you're never making anything up, especially when you're developing out your abilities and setting the intention to connect with beings of other dimensions, things of that nature, high vibrational beings. when you actually tap into other dimensions and are getting messages and having experiences that are going to build the belief, especially when you have physical experiences and scenes with these beings, it's going to change you from the inside out. It will literally change your physical body and your brain wiring, essentially, to where you're always connected to these things, and it just becomes who you are and a part of you. There will be no longer a guessing game eventually. So it's just you keeping on practicing. Like I said, guys, psychic abilities and hearing the message from spirit, which is high vibrational, right? It's just practice being these things, right? It's just believing that you're already it, because you are, right? You are spirit having a human experience. So you're already connected to love. It's just getting rid of what is not. So my next tip, and connecting with spirit, do it for the right reasons. There's a lot of times, guys, I've been to spiritual fairs and I have worked with a ton of spiritual people or spiritual entrepreneurs that you know that they don't do these things for the right reasons, especially when I've gone to spiritual fairs before. There's a lot of energy there, and there's a lot of readers who make this their career and they rely on this income for survival, right? So essentially there's a little bit of ego tied in there. And ultimately, when you have ego tied in to spirituality, there's going to be a little bit of a sway and a message. There's going to be some kind of an underlying demeanor, unless the spiritual person or the reader for you can shut down the ego totally and not let money play a factor in the reading at all. There are mind reframing techniques that you can use to get over the money blocks, but ultimately what we do, money is a spiritual thing. It's just when you tie ego in with it, it can be not a good thing in a reading for somebody's highest benevolence. So my last tip, guys, and I kind of said this in the video before, at least in my opinion, the quickest way that you can build your confidence and hearing the messages from spirit is to take action off of the messages or do readings for other people. So that is ultimately the quickest way to build your confidence, because when you receive messages and you actually take action in alignment with those messages and you have good intention behind them, when those actions develop the result that you were looking for, or the message came true, or the prophecy will say that's going to build your belief the most about it, because it's almost like a shock to the system, honestly. Because whenever you receive information and you either deliver that to a client and you're like, how the heck did I even know that you had like a grandmother that just recently passed and all this information, stuff like that, you don't truly understand how easily we receive messages just by the thoughts coming into our heads, just by our feelings being around other people. We are constantly sharing energies and information, because that's all energy is reading information. And whenever you get confirmation, it builds your confidence in yourself even more and illustrates to you how connected you truly are to spirit and how easy it truly is to connect. Whenever you take action off of messages that you receive, or, what I like to really call this as praying the right way. Neville Goddard's work really taught me this, is the correct way to pray is knowing that it has already been given because you've asked, and then just waiting for it in your external world. You basically take the breadcrumbs of the universe as it's given to you, taking action off of your intuition, essentially. So when you feel something to be true on the inside and you know it, then eventually it will show up in your reality. That's how the mind works. That's how prayer works, essentially. It's just a level of belief, and your faith is the energy behind, we'll call it a belief, until it becomes a knowing. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it helped debunk some psychic ability things for you. Hopefully it helped you understand how truly connected that you are, and that you are always receiving messages from spirit. It is just up to your discernment on what is the highest message for you, based upon your energy, based upon how you feel about the message, what is in alignment for you, right? and then building your belief in yourself. And it is difficult in this day and age. I will be one to say that, because we are all programmed a certain way to believe that these things are not real, when ultimately it is part of the human experience. I mean, like I said before, this is life. Our existence is proof that there is something beyond us powering this body and this reality, right? So it's just rewiring your beliefs about life and psychic abilities and building the belief in yourself. And that just takes time and action and trust in yourself and a higher aspect of you. Sending you all my light and all my love. Satnam.